Hey everyone, it's Tim from Linessa Farms, specialty in heirloom livestock. Thanks for joining us again today. As always, you can contact us on our website at www.linessafarms.com. Check out our Facebook page. We have lots and lots of information for you out there on social media, to include Linessa Farms Tack Box, which you can find on Facebook. This is a community page where you can ask any questions that you may have, and you can get answers not only from us, but from other individuals that follow our farm as well. It is a great resource. If you're not a member of the Tack Box, it's absolutely free. Make sure you check it out. So today we are talking about sheep shearing. Now, I will tell you, there's plenty of things in this world that you should be afraid of. War, famine, pestilence, disease, all kinds of things. Sheep shearing should not be one of them. Although some of you out there have an unhealthy anxiety when it comes to shearing sheep. You either avoid sheep altogether because of it, or you will only consider getting hair sheep because of it. Look, shearing is moderately at best challenging. It is not anything beyond your skill set. It's not anything that you can't do. We're going to go over it with you today. We're going to break it down step by step. We're going to show you the equipment that you need, how to set up your shears, and then show you step by step how to do shearing. Now, if you live nearby Linessa Farms here in Indiana, or if you want to make a little bit of a drive, we offer shearing for our customers twice a year. We have professional shearers that come to our farm from Vermont, and these individuals can knock out an animal in less than 2 minutes. But they're professionals and they do this all the time. There's certain positions that they put the sheep in and they manipulate them, move them around. The easiest and safest way for an amateur or even an intermediate to shear their sheep is to perform this on a stand. So we're going to show you all of that today. Definitely a must-see video, even if you don't yet own sheep, or if you already shear sheep and you just need a few extra tips and tricks. Make sure to check it out. Stay tuned to find out more. All right, so in order, the things that we're going to talk about today with shearing, we're going to go over the equipment that you need. This is going to be the shears themselves, the things that go along with the shears, the components of the shears. We're going to talk about lubrication that you need for your shears. We're also going to talk about stands that will help you out immensely, and how you're going to work with your partners to get this done. The next thing we're going to cover is setup of the shears themselves. There's a very specific way that you can set up your shears. This is one of the most crucial elements of shearing, and it's the thing that people screw up the most. So we want to take some time to go over shear setup with you as well. And then we're going to cover problems. And, you know, the problems are going to be covered kind of while we're talking about these things. So it's not going to necessarily be its own segment to the video, but it's going to be something that kind of intertwines with everything else. With that being said, let's get started talking about the equipment that we need. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the equipment that you're going to need in order to shear your sheep. Now, everything that we talk about here in this video, we're going to provide you links, so you can find all of that in the description below. Basic stuff that you're definitely going to need. You're going to want a halter. We have a video on how to halter your animals right here. You're going to want some wound spray, although we try very hard not to get any nicks or cuts on our animals during shearing. There's a high probability that you may, and you always want to make sure that you have some wound spray on hand. As far as lubrication is concerned, you're going to want two different types of lube. You are going to want an oil can filled with gear oil. That's a nice heavy weight oil. Regular motor oil generally tends not to work very well, and we'll talk more about this later. The other thing that we advise, there's a cooling spray lubrication that you can purchase that works great for shearing as well. And then, even though we're going to be using electric shears, a set of hand shears comes in really handy in order to shear areas like underneath the belly and around certain areas of the sheep that may be very sensitive. These are a good tool to have. As far as shearing an entire animal by hand, we'll leave that up to you. There are people that shear by hand. You can watch videos about that on YouTube. There's some places in New Zealand and other places where they shear by hand. I'll just ruin the surprise for you and tell you, you are not going to be successful as an amateur shearing by hand. Chances are it's just something that you're not going to be able to pick up without having a professional show you hands-on how to do it. Now, this is the most expensive item that you are going to run across. This is our Premier One. This is who we recommend as far as your shearing machine is concerned. And this is, these are the shears themselves. So this is our set of shearers. This is a shearing machine. This is my shearing head. And there's also a clipper head for like clippers that you can add on there as well. We're not going to talk about that today. We're just talking about shearing. Different components. This is the handpiece itself. This is what's called a comb. On top of the comb is a cutter. These are two different pieces. This moves back and forth. And as the wool comes into the comb, it catches the cutter, and the cutter will actually cut it. This is the tensioning knob. This sets the amount of pressure between the cutter and the comb. We have sets of combs and cutters that we keep together. We have this cutter and this comb that we keep together, and we always use together. We don't interchange our combs and cutters. When we get them sharpened, we get them sharpened as a pair. Other items that you will need to go along with this. In my box, I like to keep a interchangeable flathead Phillips head screwdriver. Your shearing handpiece itself will come with a large screwdriver, flathead screwdriver that you'll use. I also like to keep just some rags handy. And I am a huge fan of the leather covers. I think they come in really handy for your handset as well. It just keeps them nice and clean and prevents damage. So with that being said, we got all that knocked out. Here in a moment, we're going to talk about actually how to set up your handpiece. But until then, I wanted to cover a few more odds and ends with you. So let's head over to our shearing area. All right, so another expensive component, and it's like most things, you're gonna have some upfront costs. This is a shearing stand. Keeps the animal a little bit higher up off the ground and makes it a little bit easier for me to do my work. And then we have a headpiece here. The animal's head rests in here. The chain goes around the back of the neck, and they will get secured in, and we'll show you more about that when we actually get started. This is a must-have when it comes to shearing your animals. If you have a partner that may be able to keep them on a on a rope halter, you could potentially do that. But if you're going to be doing this repetitively, more than one or two a year, this is definitely something that you are going to want to invest in. You can find these used on Craigslist or Facebook. You can find these used all day long for relatively inexpensive. I think for a brand new one, you're probably looking at $200 to $300. I also like to bring out a little table to keep my material on. I don't want to set my shears on the ground. I don't want to keep my spray or anything on the ground. They get stepped on, they get torn up, and this just comes in really handy. It's just a sawhorse with a little table attached to the top of it. I like to set up in a nice shady area where it's going to be less stressed for the animal. And then I've got a nice large barrel fan back here that I like to use as well. And this just provides some airflow over the animal while I'm shearing them, keeps them cool and keeps them stress free. With that being said, let's bounce on back over to where the sheep equipment is, the hand shear is, and we'll go over how to set up that hand shearing device. So this is our hand piece, and as we talked about in the previous segment, this is my comb and my cutter is underneath there. So when you get your hand piece, it's not actually going to look like this. So we're just going to go through it step by step. I am going to actually disassemble this completely, and then we're going to talk about how all this actually goes together. So these screws here on the back, and although this is a Premier handset, most handsets are going to set up exactly the same. So this is what your handset's going to look like before you put anything on. Now, The first thing you're going to want to put on is your comb, and combs come in many different shapes and sizes. This is a very aggressive comb. A lot of combs will have far more teeth, up to 13 to 14, 15 teeth. The smaller the teeth, the harder it is to get the wool through, and the harder it may be to do a full shearing job. However, the closer the teeth are together, the less chance that you're going to get any kind of flesh inside of these points and do damage to the animal. This is a very aggressive comb. This is something that more of a professional would use, or someone that's been doing shearing for a long time. For those of you that are getting started, you're probably going to want to start with like a 12 or a 13 tooth comb. So there's a right way and a wrong way to place this on. You see that I have the grooves. The grooves are going to go towards the machine itself, and the smooth part is going to face out towards me. There is some finagling and some finesse that goes into getting this set up correctly. You're not going to want it all the way down. You're not going to want it all the way up. Generally speaking, I center it on the handpiece, and I go just to where it's a little bit above the bottom edge of these screws, and I'm just going to loosely tighten this up to verify that I have my placement correct. And it looks fairly good. If I want to adjust it, I can stick my screwdriver in here and turn it, use a little bit of leverage to get my comb to go where I want it. But overall, I feel like that's pretty good. So now that that's done, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to place our cutter inside. So you can see the cutter, when it gets sharpened on this edge, and this edge is going to sit flat against the comb, and it's going to move back and forth. So in this case, there's some little divots underneath here that are going to set in these holes. There's only one way that it'll line up, so you'll figure that out pretty quickly as you get going. I'm going to tighten this down with my hand screw here, and as you can see, when I'm tightening it down, eventually the entire thing will come into contact with the cutter, and I'm going to tighten it down until it's just snug. Right now it's just snug. I'm going to tighten it a quarter turn more, and that is all the tighter you want it to go. When you are holding the shear up, it should still be able to turn. If it doesn't turn, then you have it too tight. So again, it's hand tightened, quarter of a turn. That's it. You can always tighten it down as you go. One of the problems that people experience is that they over tighten this, and it dulls the blades very, very quickly. Three things that'll dull out your blades very, very quickly, or your cutters very, very quickly. Too tight when you apply this and you put this together. No lubrication and really dirty or sandy wool will cause it to get out of whack and get dull very, very easily. Now, when you look at your comb, you can see that there's a beveled edge, and you can see where that beveled edge ends. It goes from being very shiny to this duller color, and I want to make sure that my cutter teeth are just behind that bevel. I don't want to get them all the way up to the bevel. I definitely don't want to get them past the bevel. I want to get them just behind, about the width of a dime or a penny behind the bevel is the good place to be. I could maybe move my comb back just a hair in this case, but I feel comfortable leaving it where it is. Once it is in place and I have it tightened down to where I like, I'm going to take my gear oil and I'm going to put a couple drops of oil in this hole up here that says oil, and that's going to actually lubricate the drive mechanism inside. Next thing I'm going to do is take my lubrication spray, give this a nice coat, and at this point I am ready to go. So that is your shearing mechanism, your shearing tool set up in a nutshell. Now we are ready to get the animal up on the stand and actually do some shearing. So let's go get our lamb, and we'll show you how to get the lamb set up on the stand and ready to go. All right, so we've got our lamb and we've got her up on the stand here, and as you can see, I've raised up my headpiece so she's comfortable. I don't want the head completely extended, and I don't want it down too low. I have my help here that's going to help to hold her, and this makes a big difference as well. Also, while you've got them on the stand, if you're considering trimming hooves, now's a good time to do it. If you come over here and look, you can see how the chain actually connects. There's two hooks that go that this chain goes through. There's a hook down here that the chain goes up and into, and then there's a chain, or there's a hole up here that it goes into as well. So I'm gonna hook through and then up and over. And the reason that we hook like this is it's very easy for me to just pop this out and let the animal go, and I don't have to worry about the animal accidentally choking themselves. This is difficult to do alone, so I like to have my helper here that stands on the opposite side of where I'm at. Now, when we shear animals on the ground, and if you watch videos about shearing animals on the ground, you know that we normally shear the belly first, and there's different positions that we manipulate them into. When the animal's on the stand, for those of you that are especially beginners, we're going to open the animal up on the bottom and then do nice long blows up along the side. We call them blows. Here we're going to do nice long shearing cuts up along the side to get this wool off of the animal. Always want to watch your fingers, always want to watch your partner's fingers. These shears are dangerous. They can cut you, they can cut the animal, they can cut your partner. Now, these are kind of sharp, so when I'm going into the animal, I don't want to go in like that. I want to go in and just barely open them up so I can see what I'm doing. And then I want to continue on from there. So I like to start back here. I'm just going to turn them on. I'm just going to open the animal up a little bit, get down to the base wool so I can see what I'm doing, and then take it from there. Now, if it doesn't cut, you may need to slightly tighten up your cutters. This is cutting very, very well, so I'm going to leave it alone. Again, I just barely want to get the animal opened up. And then take it from there. So here's the animal opened up. I've just got barely a little bit of cover left on here. And now I have an area that I can start to actually do my blows on. About every 3 to 5 minutes, I want you to spray with some lube to make sure that you're keeping your head cool and clean and well lubricated. So with that being said, now that I've got this opened up, I'm going to start doing longer blows going from the dock all the way up to the front shoulder, and it's going to look something like this. Again, nice and flat and level with the body. There's no reason to be in a hurry. And I'm just going to go up and along. I can open that up as I go. And you can see how I'm holding the clippers, or excuse me, the shear. Now see how she's moving? She's kind of moving like she's uncomfortable. These vibrate, and they actually tickle the animal a lot. So that's it. One nice long blow, and then I can continue from there. And just like I'm mowing a yard, I want to make passes. And you see, I don't do a complete, I do somewhat of an overlap. So I've got a little bit of an overlap with my wool. Again, watch your partner. Make sure you keep an eye out and pay attention to where his or her fingers are. You don't want to cut your partner. Take your time. Don't get in a hurry. Now this is no good. Our professional shearers are gonna beat me up about this, these second cuttings, these little clippings. That's something you don't want. But again, I'm showing you how to get the animal cut not how to do a professional shearing job. Now, one of the number one places that you're going to get cuts and nicks is down here in the armpit. There's loose skin down there, so I want you to be very, very careful. The other place that you're going to get nicks and cuts is here, where this loose skin is down here. So again, I want you to be very, very careful. Always be able to see where you are getting the shears. You do not want to go blindly underneath. You don't want to hit any teat structure. You don't want to hit any of the reproductive organs. All right, so this is one of the areas that you're going to want to be really cautious about. If you don't feel comfortable going at a part of the animal with your hand shearing machine, this is when it's a good time for you to use your hand trimmers. Now, this sheep has been docked traditionally, and that is to say that this dock actually covers the vulva and protects it a little bit. In club lambs and lambs that have been raised for show, this may be docked all the way up here, and everything's going to be open. When you're in here, you got to be very, very cautious that you don't hit her with your clippers. The other thing is you don't want to hit any of the teat structure underneath here. So again, I don't want you going blind on anything, and you just got to be really cautious when you are doing your shearing to make sure that you know where your cutter is at all times and you're not hitting anything. And so this is probably one of the more common areas that people hit as well. So again, just be cautious. Up here on the side, you can see it a little bit better now that I've opened her up. This loose skin right here, see that skin fold? That'll very easily fit into these teeth. So again, you want to be very cautious that you don't cut them with the shearer when you're going. Right here in the armpit is another one of the more common ones. And then up here in the front, there's what's called a dewlap. And once I get her sheared down a little bit more, I'm going to show you there's two vertical skin folds that go here that we'll cover here in just a minute. All right, so I was clipping back here, and you can see I got a little bit of a cut. And this is what you're going to run into. There was a loose flap of skin back there, and unfortunately I got it. So this is where you want to use your wound spray. She'll be fine. This is going to happen. It happens to the best of us. So again, you just want to be extra cautious. All right, so when I'm getting up into the neck, again, I don't want to stab them ever so gently. I want to just follow the contour of the neck up. And once I get it opened up a little bit, I can get in a little deeper and do what I need to do. Again, take your time, nice and slow. Watch out for loose skin. Okay, now if you come around here to the front and look, you can see I've left some wool down here. There's a fold in the flesh down here that you're going to want to watch for, and on some breeds you're going to have folds here. She doesn't appear to have any. I like to cut down and just slowly open them up until I get a better idea of what I'm looking at, and then I can come up like this. But this is all loose skin here, so I want to be very cautious, make sure that I don't get too aggressive and get in there and do any damage. As you can see, I already got the little cut on the back that we talked about. So just take your time. I normally don't cut anything below the knee as well. So areas like this, I'm not clipping for show. I'm just clipping to knock the wool off of them, so I'm not going to get too crazy about getting in this area, because again, that's where you're going to get these cuts, like this little cut that I have here. In this case, I'm probably going to actually end up I'm going to do overkill because I can. I'm going to end up probably putting a suture in there or a staple. If you were to leave that open, it's not going to cause any damage. So when I'm attempting to get underneath the animal on their chest floor, there's a trick that you can do that I want to show you now. If you come around here on this side, Tess, if you want to trade me sides, what you can do is you can grab the animal's leg and bend it up like this, and you can see how that opens up this chest floor here and allows me to get in here really trim up and do a nice job. Now I can just go to the other side and do the same thing. All right, so I've got her shorn down in a nutshell, with the exception of her head. I took a further look at this little cut here. It's very superficial, it's just in the skin, so I'm not gonna put a suture in, I'm just gonna leave it alone. In order to get the head correctly, the best thing that I can do right now is I can just lower my head gate down all the way. And my partner can just hold the head, and I can just take my clippers, and we're going to turn her a little bit towards me, and I can just take my clippers and run up and over the top of the head. You can take the ear, cover up the eye with it. Again, now we've done a lot of shearing, so my partner knows to watch her hands so I don't get into her. And so she's watchful, I'm watchful, we work together. If you're new at this, we see lots of people that cut each other. Don't do it. Be careful, take your time. And you just go from there. When I go to clip over the eye, you can very easily come down and over the eye. You cannot go up. So if I wanted to go down and over the eye, I can go down and over the eye just like that. Okay? Down and over, don't ever go up. Okay? Alright, so when it comes to the head, you're just going to have to find out what works for you. Sometimes I like to put them on the ground and straddle them and just kind of hold their head with my hand and do what I need to do. Actually, the heads I feel are a little bit easier to do with the larger ones as opposed to the smaller ones. But that's it in a nutshell. Anything down in the belly that you really want to get, that's close to the teat structure or their reproductive anatomy, you can get with hand shears. I just want to knock the wool off. This will more than suffice for an individual that has a lamb, a production lamb or a production animal that they just want to get the wool knocked off. In this case, moving forward, for those of you that do show, and you would already know this, this is what we do to initially get started. After we do the rough shearing, this is when we would actually come in with a clipper head, which is a lot safer and a lot less apt to do any actual damage to the animal, and take that clipper head and actually get as close to the body as possible. Absolutely no reason to do that for those of you that raise for production and just want to keep the wool knocked off. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I'm Tim from Linessa Farms, Specialty and Heirloom Livestock. Thanks for joining us again today. I look forward to seeing you again next time.